All right, a pleasant evening to everyone, and hello to our Facebook and YouTube viewers and participants. Welcome to the Stack League Angular PH, RxJS, and Observables in a nutshell introduction to RxJS and functional reactive programming. I am Kina, and I will be your host for tonight's event. And of course, we would like to know where you are joining us from, everyone. So, can you please type in your name and your location kung nasan kayo right now so we know where everyone is joining us from. All right, we have participants here from University of Santa Tomas. We have viewers from Taguig, Ozamis. Hello guys and welcome. Thank you for joining us. And of course, we would like to remind everyone that if you have any questions regarding Stack League or anything about tonight's session, you can type them in the comment section and we are going to address them later in the Q&A session. And before we dive into tonight's session, we would like to give you an overview of Stack League, and Casey, our growth associate, will help me with that. Take it away, Casey.
Thank you, Kina. Again, good evening to everyone. I am Casey, and welcome to the Stack League Angular Philippines Tech Session. And I will be giving you a short introduction of Stack League, especially if this is your first time hearing about the league. So first and foremost, what is Stack League? Now, Stack League is the Philippines' largest online programming league, and our mission is to develop programming leaders that inspire a nation into coding. So the tournament is powered by StackTrek's fully automated talent analytics and assessment platform. Now, SAC League was launched last year, March 16, and we are now in our second competitive year. Of course, this wouldn't be possible without the support of our partners. We are very fortunate to be supported by the following top companies in the industry. We have Microsoft, Coding Chiefs, Deltec Systems, and Apper PH. And for our media partners, we have SparkUp, Apps Gadget, What's Up Pilipinas, Corner Magazine PH, Androidist, Megabytes, Backend News, and Blue Wing. The same goes, of course, for our community partners who help the league reach as many programmers in the country as possible. So here are our community partners. Now, let's go through the benefits. So, what do you get in joining Stack League? Now, this pioneering programmer league is gathering 8,000 tech talents across the country to test their coding skills with the promise of nationwide recognition, lots of prizes, more tech job opportunities, and invitation only events. Now, this year's league already reached the cash prize pool at we are now at 5 million pesos, and this will still continue to increase. So not the final amount yet. The final amount for the year-round cash prize pool will be announced at the official launch on February 22. Now, one of the highlights in Stack League is the weekly stack race for both individual and team categories. So each week, the top 10 players and the top three teams will be announced all across Stack League's social media platforms. So you can also view the full rankings of each category on the website. Now, apart from this, we also have the Stack League featured programmer campaign. So, what is this about? The weekly top 10 players will be featured on Stack League's website, and of course, this will be shared on our different social media channels as well. So, some of our um, top players from last year are already on the website, and in the features you will be able to get to know about them more. You will be able to learn more tricks and strategies they do in the league, so you can find that there as well. Now, we are also very excited to announce that the Stack League Ambassador Program is now open. So, to learn more about the program, we would like to show you this short clip. So there you have it. That's the Stack League Ambassador Program. This is a year-round initiative to reward participants who inspire and promote a nation into coding. Of course, since it's already February, we already had a winner for January. Congratulations to Ira J. Taga for being the Stack League Ambassador for January. She also won the 3,000 pesos cash prize and a Stack League t-shirt for being the Stack League Ambassador of the Month. And if you want to be the next Stack League ambassador and win the cash prize and t-shirt as well, the program is now open for February. You can find the full mechanics at bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador 2022. Again, bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador 2022. All right, so next would be for the competition itself. So these are the five supported programming languages in the league. We have JavaScript, Java, Python, C Sharp, and PHP. Next is the ranking system, and this is how it works. So after you sign up at the website, you start at the bottom with 0 points, and all you need to do is solve as many challenges as you can. And once you have earned the corresponding points, you will of course earn a higher, or the high that would mean that your ranking will also move up. Now once you have accumulated enough points, you can now go to the next challenge levels, where more opportunities are unlocked for you to access. So how many challenger levels do we have? There are three. We have the bronze level, silver level, and gold level. So that's gold being the highest. Now, what's new this year is that we now have prizes for whenever you unlock a level. So every time you unlock bronze, you will receive 100 pesos. Every time you unlock silver, you will receive 100 pesos. And once you have unlocked gold, you will also receive you will receive the 300 pesos. And of course, in the first week, after the soft sorry not soft sorry after the official launch on February 22, players who unlock all the challenger levels will get 1.5 times multiplier, and that is on top of their cash prizes. So make sure you go and solve or unlock all the challenger levels in the first week after the official launch. Now, we also have the Stack League Treasure Chest individual category. So, for this one, we already had this one as well from last year. Today, we will also be having the Treasure Chest, and the weekly top 10 players will receive the 500 pesos cash prize. So, of course, if there's the individual category, there is also the team category. So, for this one, each winning team will receive 1,500 pesos, and the teams that are registered on or before February 22 are qualified for the multipliers as shown here on your screens. So both Stack League Treasure Chest individuals and teams will officially open on February 22 and will end on March 26. So don't worry about the details for all of these highlights. You can read the full mechanics of the Stack League Challenger Level Up, Treasure Chest individuals, and teams at our website, stackleague.com/blogs. And that's it for the overview of Stack League. We are looking forward to seeing you make your mark in Stack League history. Back to you, Kina.
Thank you so much, Casey, and let's not delay this any longer. Angular PH is a group of Filipino developers who loves to code and share. Their passion for coding allows them to create solutions and share their experiences to the people in need. As is Stack League's mission, this community aims to inspire the aspiring developers of our country. Our resource speaker for this tech session is one of the community leaders of Angular PH who is involved in organizing tech meetups, mentorships, and has written tutorials in his own website, seijivillafranca.com. He is the Auth0 ambassador and one of the Microsoft MVPs in the Philippines. He has also been a speaker in several events and conferences, both in the Philippines and abroad. He is currently a senior developer at Codev. Let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Seiji Villafranca.
Yeah, hi Kina, good evening and good evening to all of our participants and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Wag na natin patagalin pa and let's move to our topic for this evening. So, I'll share my screen. There. Once again, good evening everyone. Good evening Stack League. Good evening to all of our participants and welcome again to Stack League and especially thank you Stack League for inviting me once again to speak at your event to share my knowledge. So once again, I'm Seiji Villafranca. I was introduced a while ago by Miss Kina. So I will be introducing the topic RxJS and functional reactive programming. Okay, I'll just introduce myself once again of the things what I do for in work or outside work. So currently, I'm a senior developer at Codev, and I'm one of the Microsoft MVPs here in the Philippines. And I'm also the Auth0 ambassador and also a community lead of Angular Philippines. So basically, what I do is I develop things. I'm a developer. Main framework Angular, but I also use other language or frameworks like React.js, Node.js, and I also use .NET. So hindi lang ako sa Angular. So marami din akong na experience. Like in my present company in Codev, I am a React developer and .NET developer. So if you are curious, ano ba yung Microsoft MVP? We do conference speaking. We do articles, contents that are related to Microsoft, especially their products or their development technologies. So, yun yung currently na ginagawa ko as a Microsoft MVP. And if you want to learn more other than the topic that I will discuss today, you can visit my site, cgvillafranca.com. So, this is my plug. Nagsusulat din ako dito ng mga contents, not just related to Angular, but also in Microsoft, um, other frameworks like React.js, TypeScript, Node.js. So if you want to learn more, am writing contents that are related to that technology. So if uh, connected to that one, my codes are all open source. So makikita nyo lang siya sa GitHub ko. So it's CGV13. So if you're willing to learn other technologies or you want to have other parts or other frameworks to learn, punta lang kayo sa GitHub ko. So yeah, I've been to several talks. Hindi lang ito yun. Siguro ito lang yung mga highlight. So I've been into local and abroad. So nakapag-speak na rin ako into JavaScript conferences international. Okay, that's it about myself. So let's go back to our topic. So the first question is, what is RxJS? So ito talaga yung pinaka i-discuss natin this evening. What is RxJS? You might heard of this in several frameworks or even especially in JavaScript since JS is called JavaScript. So the question is, ano ba talaga or para saan ba talaga si RxJS? So what's the meaning of RxJS? So it is reactive extensions for JavaScript. So it is specifically for JavaScript. So it's the use of observables for reactive programming. So kapag narinig niyo yung term na RxJS or yung technology na RxJS, laging meron niyang partner na observables and usually reactive programming or asynchronous. So next, yun, nasabi ko kanina, it deals with callbacks, asynchronous implementations, and event-based programs. So, we will discuss this further. Alam kong some of you are not familiar with observables. Some of you are not familiar what are asynchronous or event-based programs. So, we will discuss that further. Okay. Um, Actually, for RxJS, mostly nakikita natin siya for front-end. But technically, it's not really just for front-end. Since TypeScript can also be used for back-end, it can also be used for Node.js. So it is really flexible. Once you're using JavaScript front-end or back-end, you can use RxJS. Since asynchronous data is all over our programming world. RxJS is just actually a part of a bigger area. Reactive X is what we call the bigger part. So si Reactive X, hindi lang for JavaScript yung ino-offer niya. So nag-o-offer siya kay Elixir, kay Dart, even kay Swift and kay Ruby. Uh, Hindi lang yan, marami pa. Meron din siya kay for Java or .NET. So si RxJS is just a part. So marami siyang language na compatible. So ginagamit siya in different languages, not just in JavaScript. So if you want to explore more on that particular part, you will just go to this link, reactivex.io/languages.html. So for this evening, I will discuss RxJS. So hindi ko kayang itakil lahat since I'm not using all of the language. And if I tackle this, so baka abutin tayo ng ilang months dito. And yeah, we will just be tackling about RxJS. So ito yung mga, alam ko for this part, we're just having a few slides. But yeah, some of you may know observables, some of you might have encountered asynchronous data or observables or promises. But I know also that some of you might not know this. So ito lang yung mga usually na may encounter nating terms or topics under RxJS. So the core features are observable, observer, subscription, subject, and operator. So once we tackle this throughout my presentation, ito yung mga usually na makikita yung terms. So i-discuss natin to isa't isa because I don't want you to be out of place and syempre magkakaroon to ng headache sa atin kung hindi natin alam yung meaning ba or ano yung use ng bawat core feature. So, dun sa right side na nakikita nyo, this is what we call the marble diagram. So, i-explain ko rin yan kung paano magbasa ng marble diagram. Because once you deal with RxJS, you will deal most likely with marble diagrams. Majority. So, kung paano nila dinidepict, kung paano yung flow ng isang marble diagram, or yung isang RxJS rather, or yung isang observable, is dinidepict nila through marble diagram. Okay. So, another one is a scheduler. Forgot about that. Yeah. So with great power comes observables that nobody understands. So this is actually a dilemma for mostly developers, especially for Angular developers. So for your information, guys, RxJS are as I have said a while ago, it's not just being used by Angular. So itong topic ko ngayon, it's not really specific for Angular but specific for JavaScript. Kasi si RxJS ginagamit din siya kay React.js, pwede rin siyang gamitin doon, and Node and Angular. So actually, ang pinaka-major dilemma ng mga programmers is paano hina-handle yung mga callbacks, ano yung observables. They always ask me, what the heck are observables? Paano ba yung advantage niya and paano ba natin siya hina-handle? So, and majority din, yun, yung marble diagram. So, minsan mahirap siyang basahin. Okay, so, yeah. As you have read my topic, it's functional programming times reactive programming. So we will do FRP or what we call the functional reactive programming. But we will discuss this one by one. So himay-himayin natin siya. Yeah. So you are very familiar with functional programming. So ginagamit na natin to in different languages, not just JavaScript. But we might know that JavaScript is functional. So it's really present in programming for many years. So nagagamit na natin siya sa mga other languages. So especially for other languages like Ruby, so functional. In other words, functional is being more compound in pure functions. So we are not using OOP as a paradigm. So we are using functional programming. So, we might know that JavaScript is a multi-paradigm. So, multi-paradigm means na pwede natin siyang i-switch. So, pwede rin siyang functional, pwede rin siyang OOP. Lalo na ngayon kay TypeScript, pwede na maging object-oriented programming si JavaScript. So, in this case, ano ba yung mga kailangan lang natin malaman in terms of functional programming? So, this is just like a recap of what we are doing right now in our programming. So, mostly tayong lahat na developers, especially yung may experience, is very familiar na dun sa programming. So, okay. So, several concepts we need to know. Okay. So, the first class objects, pure functions, higher order functions, composition, and immutability. So, ito yung mga concepts na usually na ginagamit natin in terms of using functional programming. Okay. So, yeah. First is the first class object. So what do you mean by first class object? Based on my description, first class variables function can be used as variables. In simple terms, yung mga functions, kung anong behavior ng variables, it actually can do it. So kung ano yung behavior ng variables, behavior din ng functions. So in more simple terms, para ma-explain ko sa inyo na mas madali, this example for this snippet. So we have a variable product which is assigned to a function that contains two parameters and multiplies the two parameters. So function tong product, and ang gagawin lang natin, i-assign natin siya sa result. So yung product, for example, this the product part, 2, 2. So we have a parameter 2 and 2. So it will return, it will actually accept the function. Then we can also use it as a variable to the other functions. So basically, ginagamit lang natin siya as like variables. So ganun siya. Okay. So, pure functions. Next, this is our next topic for functional programming. So, pure functions will be always return the same output. So, hindi siya nagme-maintain ng ng state, or uh, any functions is reusable, since hindi tayo nagso-store ng any variable or state na makaka-affect sa ibang process or sa ibang code if ginamit natin ulit siya. So, for example, this one, the display name. So, very simple lang yung example ko. So, the name itself, any any parameter that we pass to the my name function, wala siyang laging yung name na pinapasa natin yung maging output. So hindi siya nagso-store ng state. So for example, I'm passing my name Seiji Villafranca. So I'm not storing the Seiji Villafranca variable on inside the function. So basically always the same yung ginagamit niya for or dinire-return niya when you use that similar function. So basically that's what your function is referring to. Okay. Next is higher order functions. So this is the concept used for writing better code. Why? Because this is actually medyo parehas siya, or medyo related siya kay dun sa first class object, because we are like using functions as a variable also, or we are using it as a value. So in this case, we are now using function as a parameter. So pinapasa natin yung function as parameter into another function. So yung higher order functions, actually these are mostly built-in functions. So these are the find, the filter, and the map. So mostly we're using this to make our code shorter or one-liner. So in this case, for example, I have a name, array of name. So um, when I want to find a specific name of the person, so I will just use the find. So yung find is a function siya. The lambda, if you are not familiar with this kind of syntax, is also a shorthand for a function. So makikita natin na parameter yung function natin dun sa function na find. So it's a function parameter inside a function as a parameter in another function. Okay. So yeah. Next is the composition. So composition is composition of multiple functions to create a new function or process. So most likely ito yung mga nested functions. So ito yung mostly ito yung parang ginagamit natin for creating a new logic by appending or by combining multiple functions. So let's have this example. So our first function is the find person. So we use the higher order function of find. So we have this will just return the name, or the name that we want to find, then the return first name. So in this case, the returned first name, we are just returning the first name by getting the first array when we split the name into a space using the space delimiter. So the next one is the return first name. So gumawa lang tayo yung find person na function is pinasa natin yung array inside. Then at the same time is yung find person na function is ginawa natin siyang parameter dun sa return first name. So basically that's composition. So it's like combining two or more functions. So this is very simple. This is a very simple example, but in other terms, so you can use this in using or creating complex functions. Okay. So yeah, the last feature, the last concept that is used in functional programming is immutability. So immutability is it's defining that the object that can be modified. So ito yung usually ginagamit if you're familiar with state management. So ito yung mostly ginagamit na concept pagdating sa uh, sa states. So or sa functions. So hindi natin inaalaw na um, ma-modify o ma-change yung value ng isang data or isang object. So if we are dealing with immutability, so how can we change the value or modify the data? So we use object that assign. So the object that assign is the one creating a new copy for the data. So for example, in this case, we have a variable game, and the value is has an object of property named Zelda and a price 2,000. So usually gagawin natin dyan is equal natin. So for example is game equals another object. So what will happen there is the game variable will be also modified. So ang mangyayari is once we modify the other variable that we created, so na inassign din natin yung game, ma-modify din siya. So, para maiwasan natin yung mga ganong side effects, so gagamit tayo ng object that assign. So, yung object that assign is, for example, itong new game, instead of doing const new game equals game, is we're gonna assign using the object that assign. So, kung binago man natin yung value ng new game, for example, yung name is ginawa din natin Super Smash, so hindi ma-affect yung game na variable. So, that's what immutability is. Yeah. So if you are asking why are we using that, it's just for the side effects. So kung ayaw natin mabago yung pinaka main variable or yung main source ng data. Okay. So just a short review for ano yung functional programming. Mostly naman tayo ginagamit natin yun, especially when you're doing JavaScript code. So reactive programming. So itong possible bagong concept sa inyo, lalo na sa mga nagsisimula pa lang mag-aral ng code. So mostly this is quite new concept for us. So ito yung lagi nyo maririnig na description. So ito yung pinaka-mainstream. So it's a programming of event stream that happens in time. Yeah, it makes sense, but specifically, naintindihan nyo ba? Some might not. So, i-discuss pa natin na mas malalim. Kahit ako nung nakita ko yan, what the heck is reactive programming? So ano ba talaga yung ginagawa niya? Ano ba talaga yung pinaka advantage niya or whatsoever. So yan yung mainstream na description niya. So pag nasabing reactive programming, usually ang makikita niyo talagang term na accommodated with it is asynchronous. So it's dealing with asynchronous data streams. So what do you mean by asynchronous? So meaning not existing or happening at the same time. So common programming paradigm is we are doing it sequentially. So for example, we have a function and we create a certain flow or certain logic for that function. So usually sequentially nangyayari yung code natin. But since it's asynchronous and it's from data streams, so it does not happen at the same time. So meaning any actions or any events are not dependent from each other. So pwedeng mauna yung isa, pwede ring mauna yung isa. So saan ba usually nangyayari yun? So i-discuss natin mamaya. So yeah, I'll just give you an example marble diagram that you can, I think, based for our next discussion later. So, for example, meron tayong input observable 1 and 2. So, ayan yung mga data stream. So, yung mga bilog na nakikita nyo is ayan yung mga data or yung mga ma-receive nating data sa callback. And possible, may operators na nasa gitna. So, para ma-modify yung data. So, usually yan yung makikita natin sa data streams. So, it actually varies. The output observable actually varies on the operators, the interval, the time, or even the number of data. So, possible meron ding cancel or meron ding errors. So, nagde-depend talaga siya in different cases or in different factors. So, we will discuss that also later. Okay. So yeah, streams everywhere. So when you tackle or when you study reactive, you will always hear the word streams. Okay, so uh, it's a paradigm that deals with asynchronous data. So a sequence of ongoing events and ordered in time, and events such as input buttons and keyboard clicks. So yun, uh, best example is input buttons and keyboard clicks. So if, for example, I need to catch something from the user when he clicks or he types something, so that is considered asynchronous. Why? Because ang pinaka reason nun is it can happen anytime. So it does not depend on other parts of the program. So kailangan natin i-catch yun by means of callback. Okay. Yeah. Sa reactive programming streams, pwede siya mag-emit ng tatlong signal. So ito lang yung value, error, and complete. So basically, the value are the circle or the marble in the marble diagram, and the error part is where if the API or the event uh, does not succeed or magkaroon ng issue about sa data or the operators, and the complete one is after all the data streams are received. Okay, yeah. So, sa reactive programming, actually dalawa yung concept na ginagamit. So the first one is promises, and the second one is observables. So I'll discuss that later, what are promises and observables, but they have significant change. But usually they both have callbacks and they receive data. Then, yeah, ano ba yung mga common na ginagamitan, or ano yung mga streams or asynchronous events na nangyayari sa applications. So usually these are the DOM events, Ajax, which is usually ginagamit natin for API calls. So since API calls are asynchronous, so we don't know, they are not really dependent of what will happen or what will happen before them. And WebSockets. So these are usually being used by messages. So mostly these are also user-driven events. For example, in messages, if a user messaged you, so that's considered as synchronous event. And the server sent events, or these are also known as the APIs. Okay, yeah. So you might be thinking, wala pa rin kayo naintindihan. So, medyo nasa low level pa rin tayo ng pag-explain. And I understand, medyo isa sa mga hard or isa sa mga difficult talaga maintindihan, especially in learning in Angular, is observables. So, actually, new topic talaga. So, yeah, let's discuss it more about reactive programming. So, compare natin siya, para mas madali nating maintindihan, i-compare natin siya dun sa mga normal way na ginagawa natin. So this is what we call the imperative programming. Uh, it, I will explain what's the difference between the two. So for example, we have imperative programming. So simple code. We have three variables, x, y, then the sum. So we just add the x plus y. Then we console log the sum. So it's 1. So the console log the sum. So the sum is 10. Then, for example, pinalitan ko ulit siya. So ginawa kong 1 yung x and ginawa kong y yung 2. So what will be the answer? So it's still 10. So why? Because the operators is before the newly assigned variables. So ito yung imperative programming. So nangyayari siya sequentially. So walang dynamic change na nangyayari kapag dating kay imperative programming. So basically that's how we explain it. So yeah, let's move now to the dynamic behavior. So the use of observables. So in this case, gagawa ko ng operator or observable. So in this case, I guess I will be using the number 3 and 4. So in terms of creating observables, we are gonna use the of operator. So based on this code, I've just imported the of operator from the RxJS. Then I've created an observable returning two values, which is 3 and 4. And next, I've used the map operator. So the pipe, this is just for chaining RxJS operators. Then the map. So in the map part, so ang gagawin lang niya is ilulup niya or i-iterate niya lahat ng mga data streams, which is ang data streams natin is 3 and 4. So ang mangyayari dito is imumultiply niya every data na ma-receive niya dun sa observable. So 3 times 3 is 9 and 3 times 4 is 12. So we subscribe. So the console log is 9 and 12. So mapapansin natin dito is our stream is dynamic. So every step is we are uh, giving different data on our callbacks or on our return events. So yeah. So another example is using the observables of interval. So dun sa part na yun, yung mangyayari kasi kapag wala siyang interval is i-display niya ng sabay yung output. So in this case, I am also using the off to create an I'm using now an interval from RxJS to create a new observable. So dun sa interval, I just set it into 1,000. So this is 1 second. So yung 1 second, ibig sabihin nun is magbabato siya ng data stream every 1 second. So compared to the other one na magkasabay is ibabato niya yung streams every 1 second. So parang may delay tayo. Then in this case, our stream is an array. So I'm just getting the array, the index of every array. So it will return the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 um, every 1 second. So, kung mapapansin nyo, si imperative programming is more of sequential siya. Dito kay observable, we can control the data or we can control the interval of the data, the um, the value or the returned value by using operators. So, pwede natin ma-affect yung data once it being returned to the data stream. Okay. So yeah, everything is still streams. So dito sa part na to, we will discuss about the marble diagram. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty much mind blown. I know it's really hard to absorb right now, but let's discuss it right now. So yeah, so let's merge the functional and reactive programming. Okay. So again, this is the topic or this is the definition for the RxJS. So uh, let's have the functional reactive under RxJS itself. So kanina diniscuss lang natin yung concept nung reactive and functional. Now let's merge it to RxJS itself. So paano ba dito sa part na to, i-explain na natin kung paano ba ginagamit si functional reactive programming kay RxJS. So, reactive programming should be used as one to construct a reactive system. So, reactive system, ano ba yung reactive system? So, ito yung responsive, resilient, elastic, and message-driven. So, first, responsive, why? Let's give you an example. So, for example, I have an application na nag-stop or nag may some parts na hang siya or hindi na nag-response. So, ang mangyayari kasi dito is we might not receive other data as well. So, ma-affect niya na yung mga other datas or other process. So, total hang na talaga yung application. But in terms of creating reactive systems, we are not creating systems that are that are really much dependent on other parts. So, even though na may maghang or may mag-malfunction na part of your system, so it will still work because it's not really that dependent and it's asynchronous. Same with resilient and elastic, and it's message driven because it's as I have mentioned a while ago, message driven kasi it depends on the events or the callbacks. It's not really much dependent on other things. So this is the main core description of a reactive system. And how to create a reactive system is you need a reactive programming. And mas pinadali ito using RxJS. Okay. So nasabi ko na kanina to, streams can emit three things: the value, the error, and the complete or the termination. So, defining the stream, comparing to real life. So, para mas madali natin siguro maintindihan kung ano ba talaga yung streams or ano ba talaga yung observable. So, let's compare it to a real life situation. So, yeah. For example, we have a faucet. Mapapansin nyo kanina dun sa code, meron tayong off from RxJS. So, yung off is like the faucet itself. So, fo- uh, yung faucet, so yung stream is ito yung parang pipe nung gripo natin or nung faucet. So, ito yung observable natin. Then, the water na dumadaan dun sa stream natin is yun yung values. Yun yung mga bilog na nakikita natin or yun yung uh, mga data like the 3, the 4. So, ayun yung pinifeed natin dun sa observable. Then, next is the subscriber. Observables are considered lazy. So, kapag hindi ka nag-subscribe sa observables, you will not receive any data. So, ang mangyayari dun sa part na yun, pag hindi mo binuksan, hindi ka makaka-receive or hindi ka makakasalo ng data. So, we can compare it doon sa gripo mismo. So, this is the subscriber. So, yung pinaka-switch ng gripo, so, ayan yung subscriber. So, pag in-off mo, syempre, hindi ka makaka-receive ng tubig. Then, kapag in-on mo, makaka-receive ka ng water, which is the values. Okay. So, yun yung parang pinaka-simple depiction natin in real life of reactive programming. So, yeah, ayun yung first topic or first depiction. So ang next naman is, yeah, you have the faucet. So paano ka makakasalo ng tubig? So ang kailangan natin is a bowl or a bucket. So it emits value asynchronously. So kailangan natin makuha yan. So syempre sa gripo, pag wala kang tagasalo, useless yung water. So how do we capture it? So we use callbacks. So these are the on-value emission, on-error emission, and termination. So as I have said a while ago again, na tatlo yung ini-emit ng observable. So tatlong klase ng bucket yung ilalagay natin dun sa gripo. So these are the one catching the value, the error, and the complete status. Okay. So yeah, to make it more complex, ayun kasi yung sa gripo, most likely tap water, hindi naman siya nahiinom. So, pwede tayo maglagay ng mga filters. This is what we call the operators on our part. So, meron tayo kanina na water stream, yung observable. Then, meron din tayo ng gripo. Then, meron din tayong tagasalo. So, what if yung water or yung variables, kapag na-receive natin, gusto natin modified na. So, for example, sa API, nagre-receive tayo ng array of users. Ang gusto lang natin mga ma-receive na users is yung mga active lang. So, pwede tayo maglagay ng filter sa gitna ng observables. So, dun sa filter, sa water, in terms of depicting it, siya yung tagalinis. So, mga filtered values na yun nandito, nalalabas dun sa tubig natin. So, in other terms, or in comparing to RxJS, the filter is considered as the operators na nagtatransform ng emitted values sa stream natin. Okay. So, yun. Yeah. So, i-depict natin siya or i-equalize lang natin siya dun sa mga more technical terms. So, the water stream is the observable itself. The tap is the subscriber or yun yung mag-open para maka-receive ng values. Then, closing the tap is the completing one. Then, the bowl is the observer or the one catching the value for the callbacks. And the operators is the filter. So, ito yung nag-filter ng mga emitted values. Okay. So, yeah. Hindi ko ma-discuss lahat ng concept ni RxJS, but I will effortly discuss kung ano ba yung mga dapat natin kailangan matutunan or ano yung mga other common concepts and operators na ginagamit. So, eto, ang number one when you learn RxJS, especially the operators, is you will mostly see a lot of marble diagrams. So, i-discuss ko kung paano ba magbasa ng marble diagrams. Well, it's pretty much easy, nagiging complicated lang siya depending dun sa operators na ginagamit. So first one is the execution of the input observable. So uh, i-depict nyo lang, ito lang din yung sa faucet, ito lang din yung tubo. So dito dumadaan yung mga values. So this is the observable itself. Then the vertical line, so that's not the filter, but that's the complete notification. So once the values or all of the values reach to that vertical line, is magkakaroon, masasabi natin na complete na yung observable. Then next, the marbles itself, these are the values. So these are the water in the stream. So ito yung mga ma-receive natin once we subscribe to an observable. So yeah, so these are the values emitted. Then this is the operator to be applied. So yung operator, ito yung filter natin. And the next arrow, so ito yung magiging observable or output observable natin. So lahat ng magiging outputs natin is nandito sa baba. Okay. So the output observable, so ayan, for example, ang operator natin is add by 5. So magiging 8, then 10. So x, y, because it's the next value is s. So the emitted value of the output is an error or a cancel. Yeah, it's an error. So it will catch an error. So this is the output observable of our marble diagram. So basically ito lagi yung makikita natin dun sa mga operators. So merong input observable and then merong output observable. Okay. So yeah, that's basically how to read marble diagrams. Then there are many operators that are being used by RxJS. So ito yung mostly na actually one of the most difficult things that we need to tackle in RxJS. Because honestly, kahit ako, hindi ko alam lahat ng operators ng RxJS. Pero there are commonly used operators that is very handy when it comes to modifying data before you receive it. So, yun yung mga i-explain ko dito. So, ito yung mga common lang. Kumuha ako for every categories of operators. So, if you want to explore more on other operators, so I've provided the link here on rxjs.dev. So, makikita nyo lahat dito ng mga available. So, marami siyang categories. The first one is the filtering operators. So, what does filtering operators do? Simply, it filters. So, depending on the criteria that you are feeding to the operator. So, for example, a filtering operator named filter. So, syempre, yan yung una since it filters. So, the example code is filtered. So, we are creating another observable. So, to create an observable is we use the operator of. So, yan yung isa to sa mga way how to create an observable. So, of. So, of is imported from the library RxJS. So it's 0, we are feeding a data 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, if you filter natin siya. So, yung filter is, it will check what are the data that produces a result of 1 when we use the operator mod by 2. So, dito, may filter niya. So, mapapansin natin sa mga sa mga result na to, ang magiging output niya is 1 and 3. So, ayun yung ilalabas na dun sa data. So, simply it filters based on the criteria. Okay. So, there's the marble diagram. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Ito yung makikita nyo. So, for example here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, the operator rather is filter x mod 2 is equal to 1. So the output is 1 and 3. So that's the filter operator. Then next is the first operator. So the first is just returning the first value that it will find based on the criteria. So in this case, we are finding the first value that is the result is 0. So when you mod it to 2. So syempre ang first value in this case is 0. So yun yung i-return niya. So that's the RxJS first operator. skip while. So the skip while is uh, it's just uh, it's just like having a criteria also when you it will skip values until it reaches that certain criteria. So we have an example also same. I'm just actually creating simple examples. So mapapansin natin na parehas lang but iniiba ko lang yung operator. So magsiskip siya while x is less than to 4. So in this case, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, iniskip niya yung 2 and 3 since our criteria is it should return values that is only that is only greater or equal to 4. Because sabi natin, yan, based on its name, we are skipping the values based on the criteria. Okay. Next is kabaliktaran naman. So, yung skip until. So, in this case, iniba ko lang ng onte. So, we can actually create uh, an observable. So, ito is considered as called observable. So, sa from event, gumamit ako ng from event na operator. So, when someone clicks, so when someone clicks on the event, so saka siya magre-return ng data. So doon lang siya mag-a-accept. So kaya siya skip until. So maghihintay yung observable ng may mag-click hanggang maka-receive siya ng data. Okay. Then next, take. This is one of the simplest operators that we can use in RxJS. So this is very useful especially for APIs. Madalas ginagamit siya. So basically ano ba ginagawa niya? So tinitake lang niya yung first n data. So for example, we want to take 2 of the data being received. So it will take the first 2 data streams. So it will just only take A and B. So that's basically what take does. Then take until actually almost the same with the skips. So what we do is, but actually this is the inverse. This is the vice versa of skip until. So dito naman sa part na to is once we click or once the user click anywhere on our page, so yung pag-receive or yung pag-emit ng data ng observable will stop. So, yun yung mangyayari. So, kaya nga take until. So, kukuha siya until mag-click yung user. So, in this case, makikita natin sa example, tatlo yung observable. Actually, this part just depicts the click of the user. So, once the user clicks, so it will just get this specific data. So, yun yung use ng take until. Okay. So next category of operators is transformation operators. So ito nagamit na natin kanina to sa dun sa ano natin sa several examples. So yung map is it's like modifying each data or adding an operator for each data. So that's why it's considered as a transformation of operators because we this is like modifying the data before we receive it. So in this case, for example, we have a series of data like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and every data that we receive, we multiply it by 2. So para siyang loop din or para siyang iteration. So makikita natin na once we use the map, so for in this example, 1, 2, 3, so we multiplied all of the data by 10. So we can see that the output is multiplied by 10. So it's 10, 20, and 30. Okay. So next, yun. Actually, ito, mostly used talaga to. Pero ito yung pinaka-dilemma na, ito yung masasabi kong one of the major dilemmas um, na operators na ginagamit sa Angular kasi medyo confusing siya kasi may mga kaparehas siya na operators pero makikita mo yung difference na when it comes to timing. So ito yung concat map, exhaust map, concat map, exhaust map, and the switch map. So, ano ba yung pinagkaiba nila? So, mostly parehas sila when it comes to returning data. But when you deeply look into it, so in concat map, kinoconcatenate niya yung inner observable using the concat all. So, ginagamit natin itong mga concatenation when we have two observables. So, in this case, we have an observable of sub 1 and sub 2. So, it has a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, in this case, we concatenate this. How can we use it? So, in sub 1, we use the pipe operator and we use the concat map. Then, it will concat the values of the sub 1 to the pipe. So, in this case, paano natin malalaman kung ano yung magiging values niya? So, dun sa marble diagram natin is mapapansin natin na it depends on the timing. So, for example, sa first observable, may konting delay si input, si first observable. Then, si second observable is mas mabilis siya. So, ang magiging output observable niya is i-concat niya lahat to dun sa second observable, same dun sa na-delay. So, iintayin niya yung concatenation or iintayin niya matapos. So, i-concat niya pa rin. Uh, ma- Kahit na-delay yung first input observable is nag-success pa rin yung concatenation niya. So, yung multiply is na-multiply niya pa rin yung second value dun sa tatlong values ng output observable. So, in exhaust map, in terms of timing, iba siya. So, ang ginagamit nila for concatenation of previous observable is exhaust. So, makikita nyo, iba yung marble diagram niya. So, mapapansin natin dito sa part na to, na once we concat a delayed input observable, so same concept, same input and output observable, but different result kung makikita nyo. So, na-delay ng onte yung input observable na 1. Then yung output observable has what do you call this? Has uh, consistent timing. So ang mangyayari dito is yung first magsasucess siya, then yung second ang mangyayari magsasucess pa rin siya. Kaso ang nangyari dito is nagkaroon ng small interval dun sa first and first observable. So hindi magkakaroon ng success dun sa third since hindi pa tapos yung second. So uh, hindi na iintayin nung third observable, rather ang mangyayari is ang second observable lang yung magsasucess since doon sa interval ni second is hindi na umabot si third input observable, third marble or third data of the first observable. So ganun yung difference nung dalawa. So yung sa first, which is concat map, is um, nag-success pa rin yung tatlo. But sa second, which is nagkaroon nga ng konting konting delay ng receiving ng data, is yung na-delay sa pangatlo is hindi na nagkaroon ng success or hindi na na-return yung data. Okay. So, yun yung mostly dilemma dun sa kung ano ba yung dapat gamitin sa concat map versus exhaust map. Then next is another transformation operator is the fork join. So yung fork join is basically ito yung ginagamit for last value or yung last value na ini-emit ng each operator. So ito is ginagamit for two or more observables. So in this example, we have three observables. So ang basically lang paano i-explain tong marble diagram is yung pinaka-output is kinuha lang niya yung last emitted data for each variable. So in this part, kinuha niya lang yung EJ at 4. So makikita niya dito sa EJ4 yung nasa output. Yan. So by the way guys, pag medyo malabo yung text dito is meron naman akong provided. So this is actually slides.com. So pwede kong ibigay sa inyo yung link para makuha nyo rin yung mga reference for the link. Okay. Yan. So this is just an example how to create it. So we just create the observable by using the fork join. So we're not using off, but we are using fork join to create to concatenate all the observables. Okay. Then next, yeah, ito same din to sa switch map. So uh, ang mangyayari naman dito sa switch map is, so mostly ito rin yung medyo may dilemma dun sa concat map and dun sa exhaust map. So ang difference naman nito sa concat map and exhaust map is uh, to explain it more clear or more simpler in more simple in terms of exhaust and concat map. So same concept, first and second observable. So na-delay ng onti yung second observable. So within that interval, yung output observable, yung nag-overlap na interval dun sa third observable versus the second observable is hindi niya na matatawag. So mapapansin nyo is dalawa lang yung output ng second. So hindi na iintayin nung third input na matapos pa yung second data. So wala siyang iintayin. So matapos man or hindi, i-return niya yung pangatlong data or yung pangatlong input data dun sa first observable. So that is switch map. Okay. So ayun, yun lang yung mga other RxJS na operators na that are commonly used, especially in terms of APIs, in consuming APIs and in Angular. But other concepts or other operators na pwede pa magamit is yun, mathematical and aggregate operators, which is mean. Mostly ito lang yung kumukuha ng smallest value based on the name of the operator, the max, the largest value, the count, and which count how many values were emitted. Then next, for the conditional and boolean values, we use the find. So find is basically the same on the JavaScript function find. Then index is it's same with find, but we will return the index of the data based on the of the criteria. Then is empty is just checking if our observable is empty. Okay. So other observable concepts. So ito rin, maririnig din natin to. We will practically hear this every time. What is the hot and cold observable? So actually marami din nagtatanong niya. So ano ba yung difference ng hot and cold? Simple. So si hot is hindi siya emit ng data once we will subscribe to it. So think of it as the faucet itself. So hindi siya maglalabas ng tubig kapag hindi mo binuksan yung gripo or yung faucet mismo. Like in this example, yung observer, may next siya, mag-emit siya ng 3 at 10. Hindi mag-emit yung 10, hindi mag-emit yung 3 or yung 10 hanggat hindi ka magsusubscribe to the observable. So basically that is hot. So cold is basically the vice versa. So eto, kahit hindi ka mag-subscribe ng data, is mag-emit pa rin siya ng event. So one best example is the click. So kahit hindi ako mag-subscribe for the data, kahit wala tong subscription one, once I click something on the application, so automatically it will emit a data. So it is based on the on the document event. So basically that is a cold observable. So that is one of the observable concepts that you might mostly hear. Okay, yeah. So it's just an introduction to RxJS. So let's just wrap up of what the things that we have learned this evening. So it's RxJS is a functional reactive programming library that is flexible to use. Marami siyang operators. It is not just for Angular, not just for React, but it can also be used in other famous frameworks. So it's very functional. It's very flexible rather, and also it's easy. It's now a way of handling asynchronous data easier. So dati medyo mahirap kasi it's not really that easy to maintain streams or handle streams, data streams. Ngayon, si RxJS nag-provide na siya ng package. So it has its own observable and it can handle its own callbacks and handle event-based programs with the use of observables, subjects, and schedulers. So ayun, meron din siyang operators na before pa lumabas dun sa stream or bago mo pa siya catch dun before you use it on your components or your HTML or your other parts of your program. So na-modify mo na yung data. So no other logic other than the operators. So nasa-separate mo mostly yung logic dun sa pag-modify ng data. Then, yeah, as I have said, it has wide range of operators that makes programming really easier. So, marami siyang operators na can make it really simple. So, yung operators, hindi ko na banggit kanina. So, kanina kasi sa mga examples, ginamit ko lang siya as a single operator. But, kung napapansin nyo, may pipe na operator. Yung pipe is giving us the capability to chain operators. So, yung mga operators na sinabi ko, pwede natin siyang i-chain or pwede natin siya ipag-combine to make the data or make the logic simpler. Yeah. So for references, I can provide my slides so you can just copy the references. So yeah, for the faucet part, actually it's a reference. So for Git Paolo, so he has a very good article on how to explain the observables. And if you want to learn more about RxJS, so just go to rxjs.dev. Nandun lahat ng operators nila and paano gumamit ng observables. And if you want to learn more or you want to explore more, kung hindi kayo JavaScript developer, as I have mentioned, they have other libraries. They are called Reactive X. So meron din silang RX Java and RX.net. So marami din sila. Then for Angular developers, meron din silang blog. So it's what we call the Functional Reactive Angular Programming for Angular 2 developers. So dito, na-explain din nila na maayos kung paano gumamit ng RxJS and at the same time, paano natin sila magagamit in terms of API calls and pag-handle ng mga data streams. So, mostly si RxJS is ginagamit talaga siya for API, especially when you are developing Angular applications. So, dun siya mostly ginagamit kasi um, we don't want our application to be involved on more logic or yung sa pag-modify ng data na nandun na sa component. Gusto natin nandun na siya sa service level, which is pagtawag ng API, nandun na lahat nung clean na lahat. So, filtered na lahat, maayos na lahat ng data. So, we want our front end to be clean. Ayaw natin na may logic since it's front end. So, para mas madali siya maintindihan ng mga developers. So, yeah. So, kung ayun yung parang pinaka-main intro ko na ano ba talaga, para saan ba talaga si RxJS. So, basically, it's used for observables and para mas mapadali yung handling natin sa streams and at the same time, mas mapalinis natin yung pag-modify ng data. And at the same time, yung manipulation ng mga data streams and observables. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all for my talk. So if you have any questions, yeah, we have a Q&A portion. But if you want to go outside and have more learnings, you can contact me. So I'm also a mentor. So you can actually contact me on my website. So yung iba, kung na-contact lang ako dyan. So go to seijivillafranca.com. I have a form there. So if you have any other questions, and yeah, you can also no, message me on Facebook. So feel free. And yeah, if you want to get my code, yeah, it's all also free and it's open source for learning. So nakakonect lahat doon ng mga topic ko for my contents and article. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you everyone for listening for this topic for RxJS. And once again, good evening, and I hope you learn a lot. And yeah, as Sheldon always say, bazinga.
All right. Thank you so much, Seiji, for that very insightful presentation and for making sure to explain everything in the simplest way possible so our viewers can understand them better, especially that we have a lot of students with us tonight. And
Yep.
as Seiji mentioned, we are opening the Q&A session right now. So if you have questions for us, for Seiji, please feel free to comment them, to type in our comment section. So I believe we have a few questions already, actually. So The first one is from Mark Anthony Estopase. His question is, what's the advantage of using RxJS versus the traditional programming solution?
Yes, and thank you, Mark, for the question. Actually, I know him. Alam ko nasa Angular din siya. Yeah, so thank you for that question. So actually, I have mentioned this a while ago also. So the traditional actually is quite complex. So kaya ginawa siya ni Reactive X in terms of handling observables. If we are using the traditional kasi, mostly wala naman talaga tayong operators na i-offer. Which is meron naman, pero we will use it from scratch. So it's not really that simple handling observables. More of parang kasi sa atin, sa developer world, it's a joke eh. Kasi na, paano ba mag-handle ng callbacks? Especially sa mga Node.js. So, mostly yun talaga eh. So, yun yung isa sa mga dilemma natin. So, yun, pinapadali ni RxJS yun. And, second, ang advantage is yung cleaner code. Na-mention ko rin yun a while ago na let's put it up to RxJS. So, yung responsibility ng pag-modify or pag pag-manipulate ng data. So, yung pinakita ko kanina ng mga operators, malaking tulong talaga siya. Instead of doing it from scratch, so just give the responsibility to RxJS.
All right, so leave it up to RxJS because it's
Yeah.
going to make things easier and cleaner. Thank you so much once again to Mark Anthony. We have our second question here, and Cora Mercado asks, where can I find resources that I can explore more about reactive programming for beginners?
Yes, ayun. Ayun Kina, so pwede kong i-share yung slides ko. Meron akong inad na mga reference do'n. So actually it's very beginner friendly yung mga nilagay ko na reference. But other than that, meron kasing mga other developers na nag-write ng content about RxJS. But mostly yon yung kay ako talaga sa Angular blog. Nag-aano sila, nagba-blog sila about doon sa mga RxJS. And even the documentation itself of ReactiveX. So it's very useful actually. Nandun lahat ng mga resources, even kung paano gumagamit yung mga operators. Uh, si Angular, I would suggest also kasi once na mag-install ka ng Angular, so doon sa documentation nila kasi package na siya as nandun na rin si RxJS. So, widely used din si RxJS kay Angular. So, pwede niyo rin puntahan si Angular na site, mismo yung documentation nila. So, meron din silang mga tutorials doon sa website nila.
All right, so Cora and to the rest of our viewers, you can visit Seiji's website as well as Angular's website for beginner-friendly tutorials about it. Okay, so next we have a few more questions here. This is from Daryl Jeslani. How is RxJS when it comes to browser support?
Yes, ayan. So it's really supported in most of the browsers now. Pero syempre, sa IE, don't expect. Mahirap talaga yan. Problem talaga. Pero usually naman, hindi naman kami nagkaroon ng issues when it comes to IE kasi we're using Angular, so we're just using Polyfill. So it still works on IE. But when it comes to browser support kasi, since the main language of RxJS is JavaScript, so, hindi kayo magkakaroon ng problem when it comes to RxJS or browser support rather. So, mostly, lahat naman ng mga operators nila, yung mismo actually has a whole package or has a whole library. Wala naman siyang problem.
All right, so no problem about browser support, very friendly. Right, let's go to our next question. This is from John Dave Pinatakan, and he's asking, what should we know before going to learn RxJS?
Yes, ayun. So that's a good question, no? Ayun, kaya inexplain ko kanina yung reactive programming and functional programming. So, might as well have an idea about that on paano ba talaga nagwo-work si reactive programming. So, before diving into RxJS. So, other parts, so usually kasi sama ko na rin React or Angular. Syempre JavaScript, kailangan niyo rin matuto kung paano ba mag-JavaScript. And if you want to dive more sa TypeScript din, so usually kasi ginagamit si RxJS in TypeScript. So yun talaga yung mga prerequisites. And yeah, yung functional din, kailangan meron din tayong solid background on that one. So yun yung mga prerequisites when we want to learn RxJS.
All right, so that's reactive programming. We also have JavaScript. And to know more, of course, you can go back to the slides later of Seiji, and
Yes.
he's going to share that with you also. So we have our next question. We have a lot of questions going in for Seiji. Our next is from John Espera. And the question is, are there any prerequisites before diving into RxJS? So I guess that
Yeah,
was answered
parehas.
already. Okay. We have other questions from our viewers. Okay, we have another one. Joseph
Yeah.
Glass asks, when would it be appropriate to use a subject rather than an observable?
Okay. Yeah, a good question. So hindi ko masyado na discuss yung topic about that, no. So si subject kasi if this is more a complex part, meron kasi iba't ibang klase ng subject. So meron tayong behavior subject, meron ayan yung subject and replace subject. So mostly subject kasi meron yung states eh. So when you're an Angular developer mostly is ginagamit namin yan sa states or if we want to go back to our history. So meron tayong yun, yung mga tinatawag na replay. Gusto nating makuha yung mga previous values. So pwede natin gamitin dito si subject. But in other cases if you just want to use it as a string, so might as well hindi mo naman kailangan mag-maintain ng other values. Might as well just use observable.
All right. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Joseph. Our next one is coming in from Enrico Miguel Velasco. And the question is, can RxJS have other applications beside web development?
Yes, actually, it can be also used in mobile development. Since we are now hybrid, ngayon, gumagamit na tayo ng TypeScript sa mobile apps like yun nga, si Angular, meron na native script or Ionic. Same as React, meron din tayong React Native. Yeah, pwede natin siyang magamit. Basta JavaScript siya. So, it can be also used in mobile development. So, ayun, nabanggit ko rin kanina, not sure dito kasi actually ako, hindi naman ako gumamit ng ReactiveX sa other languages. But I might I might think siguro pwede nyo rin i-research. Like si Dart, meron din kasi siyang ReactiveX. So, hindi ko sure, pero baka possible na gamitin din siya kay Flutter. So, like that. So, malaki kasi yung ReactiveX talaga. So, nabanggit ko kanina, hindi lang siya for RxJS. So, meron ding Rx Dart, may Rx Python, Rx Elixir. So, yun, marami. So, malaki din yung possibility na dun sa mga mobile development nila like Flutter, yun, pwede rin siya.
All right, so not just web development. Pwede din sa mobile and others pa. Okay, we are taking our last question. If anyone has a question pa, we are taking our last question for this session. So type them in. Okay, I guess we don't have any more questions. Everything was clear for them, Seiji. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So once again, if you have other questions, you may reach out directly to Seiji or go back to the resources, to the slides that he used tonight. And you can also visit his website if you want to learn more. Once again, thank you so much, Seiji.
Yeah. Thank you, Kina, and thank you, Stack League, and thank you everyone for attending this evening.
All right. So we have a few announcements before we end this session. Of course, we have announcements for Stack League. Our Syntactics Challenge powered by Stack League is happening on Friday, next Friday. That's February 18 at 6 p.m. And this challenge is open for programmers from Northern Mindanao only. So you can register via bit.ly Stack League Syntactics Challenge. And we have limited slots for this only. So go and grab your slot, do your early access early. We also have our official launch coming in very fast on February 22. That's happening at 6 p.m. And we have a lot of giveaways during the launch. So you can take a guess at the year-round cash prize pool of Stack League that is now at 5 million pesos and it's still increasing. So hulaan ninyo kung ilan na, kung magkano na ang prize pool ng Stack League and you can be one of the 3 winners of 500 pesos. And also, we are giving away 500 pesos each to 5 lucky winners who will join us at the official launch. And you may register via bit.ly StackLeague 2022 official launch. Also, our Stack League Ambassador program for February is still accepting entries. So earn your ambassador points now. You may visit bit.ly/Stack League Ambassador 2022 to learn more about how you can earn Stack League Ambassador points. Also, please make sure to register before the official launch so you can get the multipliers for the Stack League Challenger level up. So that's on top of the cash prizes that you can receive whenever you level up from bronze, silver, and gold. All right, so we have come to the end of our tech session tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the StackLeague-Angular PH, RxJS, and Observables in a nutshell. This is your introduction to RxJS and functional reactive programming. If you have no account for StackLeague yet, make sure to sign up now at stackleague.com and, of course, invite your friends and family who you think should be a part of the league. See you guys at the next Stack League event. Once again, this has been Kina on behalf of Casey and the rest of Stack League and, of course, Seiji Villafranca. Thank you once again for joining us tonight and have a great evening, everyone.